Laser sights increase confidence regardless of experience level, whether you're learning the fundamentals or overcoming aging eyes. Crimson Trace, making laser sights standard equipment. Visit crimsontrace.com to find a dealer near you.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, it's vintage gun restorations and reproductions, reflections about the gun rights battle as the 10-year anniversary of the Heller ruling approaches, and a whole lot more. So call in now at 866-TALK-GUN with your questions, comments, and range reports. And now, here's Tom Gresham.
Well, all right, Tom Gresham here. Exactly. We're doing Gun Talk. We are actually at Gun Talk Northwest, somewhere, where we're out in Idaho, having some fun. Been visiting, been doing a little shooting, a little fishing, just taking it in the outdoors, having a bunch of fun. And it's going to be a very interesting show today. We have so many things to talk about. We want you to be a part of the show. And, of course, the way for you to do that is very easy. You just give us a call. It's 866-TALK-GUN, or just dial us at Tom Talk Gun. At the in the intro, it mentioned that we are coming right up on the 10-year anniversary of the famous Heller decision, the Supreme Court decision in that case, which really did change a lot. We've had some successes. We've had some disappointments as a result of that. But it is time to look back to kind of look at that whole thing. And we'll be doing that pretty much through the month as we go along. But it is a distinct pleasure at this point to tell you that actually sitting right next to me right here is Alan Gottlieb, the founder and the head of the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Alan, it's been fun having you out here at our little Idaho compound.
It's absolutely great. Your Idaho compound is something very, very special. I don't know how you can leave it. If I were you, I'd be broadcasting here every week and never leaving. It's
a special place. We're on a big lake and just get to goof off and relax a little bit. But we were talking a little bit earlier. The Heller decision, for those who don't know, the D.C. versus Heller was a landmark decision. One of the things that is very much misunderstood about this decision, because people say, well, it's a 5-4 decision, and it was. But there was a 9-0 part of that where the Supreme Court said that the Second Amendment is an individual right. On that, they agreed 9-0 in the middle of that. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle sometimes.
It definitely gets lost in the shuffle, but it also plays into the fact when you talk about how we've had some disappointments. You know, everybody talks about, well, the Second Amendment is right, but it doesn't cover this, it doesn't cover that.
Right.
This isn't the right kind of gun to be under it. This isn't the right kind of law that really infringes on it.
Okay.
So while everybody wants to admit that, you know, yes, it's an individual right, it's then how do we carve it out so that the right...
They still want to restrict it.
They want to make it meaningless. So, yeah, you have a right, but it's meaningless.
Okay. So the Heller decision said, yes, you have the right to keep and bear arms. There were some provisions, some parts in there that Scalia wrote that really has caused a lot of heartburn, where it says, you know, of course, it doesn't mean that you can have just any gun. And so there were some parts in that. But before we went on, you mentioned something that was interesting. I have not heard this talked about. There was almost like a secret or at least unrecognized benefit to Heller.
Yeah, there really was. You know, lots of times public opinion polling for gun rights goes up and down based on various things happening, and then usually normalizes back out a little bit. When the Heller decision came down, there was a giant shot in people supporting Second Amendment rights, you know, over gun control. And most of that stayed. It didn't go away. And it was sort of like, I guess, when the Supreme Court says, yes, it's an individual right, and you have a right to own a firearm for self-defense purpose, for legitimate legal purposes. Lots of people who was just maybe in the middle on this issue said, okay, now it's a recognized right.
Okay. The Supreme Court says that it's a right. Okay, and then I guess I can go with that, is what they're thinking.
Exactly. So it gave a shot in the arm to the whole gun rights battle on our side, because more people recognized, yes, it's a right, and yes, I support the Constitution.
One of the results of that could be that, and it's not legislation, it's not even litigation, but it affects how people vote. It affects how people respond to the gun issue in its entirety.
Yeah, so the decision wasn't just a victory, you know, in the court. It was also a victory in the court of public opinion.
All right, so after the Heller decision came down 10 years ago, the Second Amendment Foundation goes back to work because we had a follow-up, actually more than one, but at least one major follow-up case.
Well, it's great. The day we won the Heller case, Alan Gore was the attorney for Heller,
right,
on behalf of the Second Amendment Foundation, filed the same day, within hours, the McDonald versus Chicago case. And just for some of your listeners, if we talk about Heller, we don't really talk about what it was. D.C.,
right.
Washington, D.C. had a ban on the ownership of handguns.
Okay.
And that victory was a very big victory. It gave us the individual right, but it only pertained legally to the federal government or federal enclaves like Washington, D.C.
Okay.
The McDonald case then said we want to incorporate through the 14th Amendment the Second Amendment rights so that cities and states can't take those rights away from you as
so
well.
So Heller really only protected the right to keep and bear arms within the D.C. and it basically federally regulated or controlled property.
Or federal Congress passing laws.
Okay.
But it didn't prohibit your state legislature or your city council.
Okay, so that's what McDonald did. McDonald took this very small, narrow decision and blew it up and made it a whole national
Yeah, but
decision.
I don't want to say it was a small, narrow decision because it was monumental. It was a landmark decision. Without Heller, we could not have filed McDonald.
Right.
But without McDonald, you couldn't have filed all these other hundreds of lawsuits that have been filed since then in the last 10 years.
And I mentioned, I use the phrase often, I said a lot of these folks like you and like Alan Gore, you guys think 3D chess. When Heller was underway, you already had in mind the McDonald and then the next one and then the next one because you knew that's how you build. You have to start with one and then build on it and build on it. I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah, we were sure we were going to win the Heller case.
Okay.
And so we actually already had the plaintiffs and the brief already written, obviously, because within hours we filed in federal court.
Right. So you had McDonald ready to go.
We had McDonald ready to go because we you win, you got the momentum, you don't stop, you keep pushing it. But likewise, people don't realize that the day we won the McDonald decision and knocked out the Chicago handgun ban and incorporated the Second Amendment through the 14th Amendment, we filed another case the exact same day, known as Bateman versus Purdue. North Carolina case where they had in North Carolina law that they could basically suspend Second Amendment rights during emergencies, snowstorms, hurricanes, whatever it might be.
Basically, the governor could just say it's an emergency and your Second Amendment rights are gone. They could stop gun sales. They could stop all of that sorts of thing.
Right.
Okay.
So we filed that the day we won. We already pre-set up.
Right.
Filed that the day we won the McDonald case. And, of course, that case we won in district court. And what happened was North Carolina didn't appeal it, so that didn't get to go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. It ended there. And again, you had to be a little lucky in these cases. If Washington, D.C. would have just changed their law and said, okay, you can own a handgun, and we're not going.
They could have avoided the loss.
Yeah, they could have stopped us from ever getting a Supreme Court victory.
Yes.
Likewise, in the city in Chicago, on McDonald, if they would have gone ahead and just changed the law again, they would have rendered our suit moot.
Why didn't they?
Well, sometimes you have to be a little lucky, and sometimes the anti-gunners are so into their anti-gun ideology that they just don't think and
they
care.
couldn't imagine that they could lose.
They couldn't imagine they could lose. Sometimes, like we had the big victory in Illinois in Moore versus Madigan, which knocked out the ban on carrying of firearms for self-protection in Illinois. They stopped short when we won that at the Court of Appeals level. They stopped short and did not appeal it to the Supreme Court.
They didn't want the precedent in the Supreme Court.
And that's the one that probably would have given us the precedent, and they were smart enough not to do it. So, yeah.
Well, that being the case, as we look, and of course you had the Ezell case, because they said, well, in Chicago, yeah, okay, you can have a gun, you can do all of this, but you got to get training. And oh, by the way, we banned gun ranges in Chicago.
Right, we knocked that out with an Ezell at the appeals court level, and then Chicago changed the law, so we couldn't take it to the Supreme Court. They didn't appeal it to the Supreme Court. The law they changed it to wasn't a good one either. We challenged that, and we won that one too, but it wouldn't appeal that one to the Supreme Court.
Right.
So we established in Ezell the fact that your gun rights don't stop at your front door. You have a right to take your gun out of your home to use for lawful purposes like training at a gun range.
Right. And I just want to say, all of this was happening in the last 10 years, and even as we speak right now, you have somewhere in the order of a dozen?
2 dozen.
2 dozen cases.
Yeah, a little over 2 dozen cases that are filed in federal courts
and some
now.
of these are major cases, and some we expect to be able to talk about sometime soon.
Sometime soon.
We can't say when, we can't say what it is, because you don't want to, but there's some big stuff coming.
There's some very big stuff coming. Particularly, we already know it's going to be a big win, but we can't talk about it yet until it's finalized. All
right, hold that thought here. We'll come back. I want to talk about something that just broke in the news. You've heard of Amazon, right? You've heard of Google. You've heard of YouTube. Yeah, they're doing stuff to us. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we come back. Talking with Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation. Our number 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham, and this is Gun Talk.
Laser sights are an essential firearms training tool, improving the skill level of the shooter by enhancing proper fundamentals like sight alignment and trigger control, and providing life-saving practices that can be depended on in moments of crisis. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com for a free copy of our laser training video, The Laser's Edge, and learn why Crimson Trace is making laser sights standard equipment.
Since 1937, Ducks Unlimited has led the charge on wetlands and waterfowl conservation. Wetlands reduce the effects of flooding and recharge our drinking water, but perhaps most importantly, they allow us to experience what makes the outdoors so great. Band together to rescue our wetlands.
The .45 Auto, also known as the 1911, is the standard other defensive pistols are measured against. No matter what pistol you carry, techniques developed around the 1911 are vital. You know you need training, and you know your concealed carry class definitely was not training. Now Gun Talk presents an exciting DVD, Fighting with the 1911 with Tiger McKee. Tiger's unique training style will have you drawing, moving, shooting, and running your gun better, no matter what style pistol you prefer. At ShopGunTalk.com, you can order our DVDs of Tiger's instruction. ShopGunTalk.com also has a 2-DVD set, including Concealed Carry 1. Get both for the information you know you need. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com has DVDs, books, and other essential gear. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
For more than 70 years, Timney Triggers has been enhancing the shooter's experience. Whether it's a local competition, a day at the range, or even the hunt of a lifetime. Setting the standard in aftermarket triggers, Timney is now producing more than 170 models of triggers for bolt-action rifles, shotguns, AR rifles, and semi-automatic rifles. Proudly made in the USA since 1946. Find your new trigger at TimneyTriggers.com.
Hey, back with you. I've got a lot of things to talk about, and with Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation. Alan, we may have to bring you back on here in just a little bit because I'm looking at a list of things we want to talk about. There's a lot here.
There's a lot here.
There really is. One of the things you sent me, you told me about, is a change in the Google AdWords policy. And I think it's kind of part of a larger thing that's going on, but they're restricting people who want to advertise to buy Google AdWords, right?
Right. And I got this from Google directly because the Second Amendment Foundation runs a lot of ads on Google.
Okay.
So they sent this to us.
All right. So I'm just looking here. This is a non-exhaustive list of examples of products and ads which will no longer be allowed. Stocks, conversion kits, scopes and sights, tripods and bipods, gun grips, and gun-making instruction software and equipment for 3D printing of guns or gun parts. So can't have any ads for scopes, sights, tripods, bipods? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is obnoxious. And it's not just Google, but we're seeing it all across the Internet with a lot of the major companies that run advertising. And it really burns me because it's basically just demonizing firearms and anybody who uses a firearm.
Look, we're both capitalists. We really believe in that. At a certain point, and we're going to be talking in just a few minutes here with another thing of YouTube taking a major gun channel down. At a certain point, is there a call for government action on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not happy as a capitalist either about seeing government regulations.
Exactly.
But at this point, Google, YouTube, Facebook, they're so big that they're actually almost acting as if they're a monopolistic utility. And we all use it basically just the same way we use electricity or our phone lines or anything else. And it's going to reach a point that the federal government is going to regulate them as a utility if they keep this up.
I mean, Google has, 90% of the search engine business probably?
I think something about that.
I would think something like that.
But, the problem again, though, is that these are things that we use in our daily lives for information, for education, for commerce. And when you limit, who can access it, and you're basically controlling the whole marketplace of information flow, information technology, this gets dangerous.
Well, I would say we're already there, because if they say, okay, if it's about guns, or in the case of like a Citibank or Intuit, we won't process your credit cards, and we'll actually take the money that you've been paid to you already. We're going to send it back to the customers, which they've been doing. The financial institutions, it is, and I've talked about the marginalization of guns and gun owners to the point where if you can reduce it down to where people don't even think you exist, because you become invisible. If you have no access to the internet, and if you can't get your message out, they can basically dry you up.
Yeah, Tom, the banks, the credit card companies, the insurance companies, Facebook, Google, YouTube. This is more dangerous to us than legislation is, because basically they're taking our rights away without even legislating them. It's more than even just marginalizing us. The demonization of this and making it unsavory if you own a gun or use firearms for like we've done for hundreds of years.
Right.
All of a sudden you're just you're taken out of society, and that's what these things are doing to us.
Because society is online now. And, of course, you have the commerce aspect of not even processing credit cards. You have the commerce aspect of Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook page and you're a business, it's much more difficult to be out there and to conduct your business. If you can't use Google AdWords for your business, legitimate and a regulated business, you're right. They just kind of make you go away without anybody voting, without there's no transparency.
Yeah.
These decisions are made in some room somewhere by somebody you don't know.
And you can't reach them because you have to only do it online. You don't even get to talk. You don't get to talk to a human. There's no face.
There's no phone line. There's nobody you can go and sit down with and say, "Look, let me explain."
Let me explain how this has affected. Now, in this past year, it's gotten to the point of I'm going to say past no return. Up to this past year, a couple of years before this, it was annoying. As an example, the Second Amendment Foundation, we put an ad up to run on Google AdWords to run on the internet, and it wouldn't get approved. And you'd have to go, and without talking to a human face again, you'd have to go, through their system until they responded back to you saying, okay, you can have it. Because anything that mentioned gun or showed a gun, they're immediately denying. So when you're talking about gun rights, and you got to use the word gun, and they don't take our ad, but obviously if you're the anti-gun groups and you use gun safety, they take that ad. And if you're in a battle someplace, you're in a legislative battle, you're in an initiative battle in the state,
right?
And you want to run your ad, and the other side gets to run theirs because they're cleared. But your ad gets even delayed a week.
Well, yeah.
You lose.
That's right, because things are happening that quickly. You need to move fast. So where do we go? And like I say, I am not one who would normally call for government interaction on something like this, but I think they are so massive. They are the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers of this era who basically controlled America behind closed doors and eventually had to be broken up. And I think we're there.
I think we're getting there, and this is going to be the next probably front in the gun rights battle, where we have to join in to support this type of regulation to protect our own rights and our own freedom, not just Second Amendment rights, but our First Amendment rights.
Sure. And there may be some things in the works on this. Actually, there are some things in the works on this we'll be able to talk about, before too long, we hope. But this is a huge, huge deal, and there's so much money. There's an unimaginable amount of money that resides with these people.
Yeah, and what the problem here is, if this was just a United States issue, we could probably sit down with the Facebooks and the Googles of the world and get them to back off. But they make their money not so much in the United States now. They make their money in every country in the world. So gun rights in the United States to them is a minor amount of money if they lose, saying gun companies can't advertise on the internet. It's real minor to them. If they win friends with anti-gun governments like Japan or the European Union, they're happier that way and cutting us out. So there's a lot of international pressure against this as well.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Is it possible that somebody in Japan who we don't know who it is telling them, yes, we would like to approve this move by Google, but we really don't much like your policy on guns in America? I mean, is that kind of a conversation that could actually be happening? I'm
sure it probably is happening. And you also have the fact that you have big shareholders in some of these companies. The George Soroses of the world, the Michael Bloombergs of the world, who have a lot of influence with these people behind closed doors that you and I are never going to be able to have.
So without that kind of help, without that kind of influence, then we have to go to the government to have, whether it's congressional hearings or whatever it happens to be, or maybe it's regulating them as utilities, which I think may be the avenue to go to say, no, you can't cut off conversation, information, First Amendment speech of legal, regulated, products and activities.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to attack this. One, again, is that they become monopolies and you break them up that way. Another way is that you make them as utilities and that they have to provide the service to everybody, and they can't discriminate, so to speak.
Right.
But these companies who are going, they're going to face that, and they know it, and they're worried about it. And it seems like the biggest area that they're exposed to right now is the attack on gun owners and gun rights and the gun industry as a whole.
But we're not necessarily going to be the only ones, because if they're willing to do that to us, they're willing to do it to anybody that they just don't approve of.
Exactly.
And therein lies one of the big challenges when you say, okay, you can simply stop a conversation. You can, in essence, they can make you disappear from public view.
Yeah, so we're going to have some strange bedfellows in this battle in the future. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, it's like people ask me this about the ACLU. I say, wait a minute. Sometimes we actually work with the ACLU on common ground here. You never know who's going to be working together in these things.
Yes. So this is going to put some strange bedfellows together, and then that will add to our strength and maybe our victory.
Exactly right. All right, Alan, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what's going on with YouTube. We just had YouTube shut down a major channel, a gun channel. I think it just happened in the last few hours. We'll be talking about that. I may be able to grab you back a little bit later, okay?
Sure.
We'll do that. All right, Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation. Also, when we come back, I'm going to be talking a good bit about the 6mm Creedmoor. Got a chance to shoot that a good bit. We blew stuff up this week. I mean, we seriously, we used ammonia nitrate, dynamite, det cord, and some other stuff, and we had some real fun blowing up gun safes and having a good time there. Also, we're open to your comments, your range reports, 866-TALK-GUN, 866-TALK-GUN. When we come back, what happens when a major company gets its YouTube channel shut down? We'll tell you.
Sign up for our Gun Talk newsletter and join the Truth Squad at www.guntalk.com. Now, back to Gun Talk with Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
All right, continuing our conversation. By the way, in just a minute, we're going to be talking about ballistics and technical stuff. I want to talk about the 6mm Creedmoor, 6mm in general. I go way back with those, and some of the new bullets and things that are going on. Twist rates. We're going to go gun geek on it. But first, I want to continue this conversation about what's going on with the marginalization of gun owners, gun companies that sell things in the highly regulated world of firearms, whether it's Google, AdWords, changing what's going on there, or Facebook, or in this case, YouTube. Joining us right now is Ryan Repp from Brownells. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, Tom. Well, we've been better, I'll tell you that.
All right, so tell people what happened and when all this happened. This was like just this weekend.
Yeah, it sure was. We got some notifications from some channel subscribers, frankly, yesterday morning, about 9 o'clock or so, and they said that, hey, what happened to your channel? And we looked into it, and it literally had seemed to just vanish off the face of the earth.
So Brownells has been around forever, major supplier of gun parts, of gun supplies, one of the established companies forever with lots of good information on how to reload, how to do things with, 19,000 or something videos. I mean, you guys got zillions and zillions of videos. And then without any warning, they didn't contact you. YouTube just turns the switch and turns off your channel.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And there's no access to the channel. It's like legitimately it never existed. I talked to one of our social guys who has a third-party monitoring software, and it looks like the last activity that happened on the channel was there was somebody who subscribed to the channel about 2 a.m. Saturday morning. That would have been Central Time, and so it seems like the channel was nixed somewhere in the early morning hours, probably of Saturday.
So what have you heard from YouTube at this point?
Absolutely nothing. There's no way to contact them, certainly on the weekends.
And there's no phone number. There's nobody to talk to. And you can try contacting them through email or through their system.
Right. That's kind of how you do it. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time that content creators in our industry have seen it. So we do have email addresses that have been provided by some other folks, some other YouTube personalities. So we've started that, and I've sent emails there, but they don't work on weekends, so we haven't heard anything back yet.
Very strange. I was just talking with Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation. He was here. Google just changed its policy on Google Adwords. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
But that's a huge deal. Now, no Google AdWords on stocks, conversion kits, scopes and sights, tripods and bipods. These aren't even guns. These are just things that get attached to guns. This is part of an ongoing assault, I would have to say, that is my word, on gun ownerships, on people who are in the firearms world. I want to say marginalizing, but I think it actually goes further than that. Is this the first time this has happened to Brownells?
It is, yeah. It is the first time that happened to us. Back in February, we had received some account strikes. So for folks who don't know what that means is if you violate or are alleged to have violated YouTube's policies, they will give you an account strike. And you're not supposed to if you get 3 account strikes, you're off of YouTube. They terminate your account, which is what's particularly frustrating about this one, because those account strikes have been rescinded. We were able to appeal because our account was still active, and I don't know what it was, but several YouTube accounts at that time had received strikes seemingly for no reason. So those account strikes had been rescinded, and so I think what's particularly frustrating about this, Tom, is that we had done some pretty significant compliance checking on the site back in March when YouTube dropped its new firearm content policy. And we thought we were good, and with no warning and without even an account strike, without them reaching out, it's just gone like it never happened. And I think that's the most frustrating part for us.
And I want to point out that Brownells has invested a ton of money into production facilities and effort and time in putting out really good instructional videos on everything from gun safety to how to safely work on your gun, to disassemble, to put a part in, to fine-tune, to enhance. And it is completely an educational effort on your part, obviously geared toward the commerce side of things, but your videos are very educational and very much non-controversial, I would offer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen comments from various social media folks who were grateful or taking up our cause on their channels, but somebody said, one of the individuals said that you would find your trip to Disney World to be more offensive than you would cruising through Brownells' YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Tom, our videos are shot by professionals that are both in front of the camera and behind the camera. There's certainly nothing out there there's far more extreme things happening in YouTube than our account. I can assure you that.
Well, and I'm trying to explain to people who may not be in the business where they're actually on YouTube as a business, access to YouTube, Facebook, and Google AdWords is a significant factor in anybody's business these days, and I would say it has to apply to Brownells as well.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are quick to say, well, it's YouTube. It's, we know where we at least think we know where their ideologies are, and they don't lie with our community oftentimes and that sort of thing. And while I understand and respect that sentiment, to your point, Google and YouTube are the top 2 sites in the world. And if you're in e-commerce, we don't always have the liberty to just say, forget them, because we still have 500 families to feed and all that sort of thing too.
Well, I mean, let me put it in numbers for those who aren't getting it. We're talking about millions of dollars in lost opportunity and lost sales if you don't have those outlets for e-commerce.
Right, yeah. If you're an e-commerce company like Brownells is, you just have to. There are just certain places you have to be, and YouTube is certainly one of those.
This is another shot fired in this culture war, and honestly, our conversation before you got on, I'm not asking you as Brownells to weigh in on this because you may not want to, but I think at a certain point, sooner rather than later, we have to look at, which usually anathema to me, but government intervention in the part of regulating these entities as utilities.
Yeah, I know that discussion has certainly been had. And I think that there's an interesting contradiction there, I think, Tom. I think that the way you and I think, at least I think, and a number of your listeners think is, we're big proponents of, capitalism and the free market and guns or companies run their businesses as they see fit. And so there's sort of that dichotomy of, well, that's what YouTube is doing. But at some point, do you ask, well, you look at you think about the Ma Bell breakups and those sorts of things. I mean, my goodness, think about the number of searches on Google and YouTube versus the number of phone calls that were made in the day. I think you can make an argument for that for certain.
I agree. Well, Ryan, would you do this a favor? Keep us posted what we find out, because it's not just a case of, gee, we got it turned back on. I think the real critical piece of information we're looking for is what happened, who did this, under what guise, and how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Sure. No, I'd be happy to keep you up to date, and want to thank everybody who's come out and offered words of support, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. So if you want to go look at YouTube videos on Brownells, you can't do it right now. I'm sure they're going to work that out, but at the same time, it's just wrong. And wow. And what you can do is go to their website, Brownells.com. It's Brownells.com, one of the great companies in the industry. All right, now we're open lines waiting for you, 866-TALK-GUN. I want to talk about the 6mm Creedmoor. If you have a 6.5 or a 6, by all means, let us know. If you're a fan of the 243 caliber in general, I'd love to get your take on it. 866-TALK-GUN.
When the U.S. military's elite units and law enforcement agencies across the globe demanded innovation and reliability, they didn't settle. They chose Sig Sauer. When world champion professional shooters demanded precision accuracy, they didn't settle. They chose Sig Sauer. So it's no surprise more and more civilian gun owners are refusing to settle for anything less. They're choosing Sig Sauer firearms, ammunition, electro-optics, suppressors, air guns, and training. Sig Sauer. Never settle.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
Now at LibertySafe.com, you can buy a Liberty Safe at a great price and receive 12 months interest-free payments with 0 down and 0% APR, with some safes as low as $20 a month on approved credit. Peace of mind, lifetime warranty, and in-home delivery service. Go to LibertySafe.com now for 12 months interest-free payments with 0 down and 0% APR. LibertySafe.com.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
Think all ammo's the same? Think again. Aguila Ammunition uses the highest quality materials and is one of the world's largest rimfire manufacturers. Want Silent 22 ammo, powderless Super Calibri, and Sniper Subsonic merely whisper. For light recoil and big performance, mini shells make any shotgun a pleasure to shoot. Match grade and the Hyperfast Super Maximum and Interceptor 22 loads get the maximum for your rifle or pistol. Visit AguilaAmmo.com/brimfire. Feed your firearm.
Back with you, Tom Gresham. 866-TALK-GUN. Get you in, or just dial Tom Talk Gun. I want to talk a little bit about the 6mm Creedmoor. No. I'm not talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor. Everybody knows about the 6.5. If you are in PRC competitions, long-range shooting competitions, you certainly know about the 6mm Creedmoor. Well, what's that all about? Well, you take a 6.5 and you neck it down to 6. 6mm, of course, is 243. Is it faster? No, not really. Is it more powerful? No, not really. And what's it do? Why? I mean, we have the 243 Winchester, which is 70 years old, 80 years old. We have the 6mm Remington, which started life as the 244 Remington. And therein lies a hint at what's actually going on. If you know the weird, arcane history, Remington brought out the 244 Remington, a 6mm cartridge, and they gave it a 1 in 12 twist rate because they thought 6mm is a varmint cartridge. At the same time, Winchester brought out the 243 Winchester, which is a 308 neck down to 6mm, and they gave it a 1 in 10 inch twist rate. That is the speed at which the bullet spins in the barrel. With a 1 in 10 twist rate, you can put a 100 grain bullet in it, and it'll stabilize, and it becomes an effective deer hunting cartridge. With a 1 in 12, it won't stabilize anything heavier than an 80 grain bullet, and people who wanted to shoot deer with it couldn't get 100 grain bullets. Therefore, the Remington did not sell well. Remington quickly tried to regroup. They changed the twist rate, renamed it the 6mm Remington. But at that point, the battle was lost. The war was lost. And the 6mm Remington is, for all intents and purposes, obsolete. I mean, an antique. The 243 goes on and on and on. Because why? Well, it works better than it should. Why does it work better than it should? I've said this many times. Recoil. Simple as that. You give somebody a 300 mag and let them sit there and shoot 100, 150 rounds off the bench, and then they give them a 243, they're going to enjoy the 243. They're going to shoot much better. Their groups are going to be smaller. They're going to hit what they're aiming at. And you know what? It doesn't matter how big your cartridge is. If you shoot at a deer and you miss it, you can't miss it well enough to take it, to kill it. 243, you put the bullet where it belongs. So the 243 won the battle because of twist rate, because it could shoot heavier bullets. Fast forward to 2017, 2016, if you will. The 6mm Creedmoor, it has generally a 1 in 8 twist rate. Well, what can you do with that? Well, you can shoot these VLD bullets, very low drag. What's a VLD bullet? It's heavier for caliber. That is, it's 105, it's 110. In the case of the Barnes match burner, it's a 112 grain bullet with an astounding ballistic coefficient of 624. It bucks the wind. It doesn't drop as much. It makes hits easier. So the twist rate allows them to use longer bullets, which allows it to shoot flatter, which allows it to buck the wind and not be as affected by wind, which allows you to make longer hits. So that's what's really going on. Do you need it for hunting? Probably not. But would it be cool? Yeah, absolutely. And with Barnes, we were just out at Barnes shooting in their lab. You could also use their 95 grain all copper bullet in that faster twist rate. Very cool stuff. If you have experience with the 6mm Remington, 243 Winchester, or certainly the 6mm Creedmoor, I would love to hear about it. 866-TALK-GUN is the number here. I'm Tom Gresham, and yeah, I do love 6mm cartridges. All right, back with talking about 6mm cartridges and just lighter cartridges in general. What can you do with them? Well, a lot. I just mentioned last week we spent some time down in the Utah area, south of Salt Lake City. Went to Liberty Safe, did some fun stuff with them. Went to Barnes Bullets. They're located down there, shooting some of their bullets in their astounding underground 300-yard range. Holy cow. They're missing one thing there. A mode of transportation. I told them, you guys got to get at least a bicycle or a Segway or something. You got to walk 300 yards down range, set everything up, then walk 300 yards back. So, holy cow. It's a bizarre kind of a thing, but man, it's so cool. I mean, it's like I was drooling, wishing we had that. But we were shooting their 6mm bullets, all copper, as well as their match burner, which is a lead core bullet. Very accurate. Stunning BC of 624. Unbelievable. But it is believable. I don't want to say unbelievable because there have been in the past companies that fudged on the ballistic coefficient numbers because a higher ballistic coefficient number helps sell bullets. Barnes actually uses Doppler radar to measure the BC in flight, so they're getting real-world numbers, stuff that really works. I remember way back, this is a while back in Wyoming, went out on an antelope hunt. I had one tag for $1. When I got there, they said, well, would you like a doe tag? I said, well, I don't know. How much are they? They said, well, they're $25 a piece. I thought, well, that's nothing. I said, well, how many can I get? They said, well, you can get 5. I said, I'll take 5. I was shooting a 6mm Remington in a Ruger No. 1. That's right. It was a Ruger No. 1. Shot 6 antelope using an 85 grain. Now, that's small. Come on. 85 grain Barnes X bullet, the all copper bullet. And it was interesting, and we were talking about bullet performance there, because people have interesting ways of measuring bullet performance. I got total penetration on all but one. They all fell straight down. I mean, literally did not take a step. Amazing performance. Finally was able to catch one kind of a quartering shot, shoulder to ham, and finally caught a bullet. It's the only way I could do it. But that was my introduction to how effective the good bullets can be. Of course, now we have a lot of really good bullets, whether they're Accubons or Barnes or a lot of different ones out there. I think you could actually think in terms of the really good controlled expansion bullets we have now, bumping up a caliber 1 or even 2 steps. A 243 with good controlled expansion bullets, might be the equivalent of a 6.5 in the old days with the old style bullets that often failed and shed their jackets. So interesting stuff. But yeah, we were having a ton there. We were actually shooting the 6mm Creedmoor, which is honestly probably more of a competition cartridge than a hunting cartridge. I mean, it'll work for just fine. Here's the thing. If you want to use those high BC bullets and you have a 243 or a 6mm Remington or something else, remember, and I think a lot of people forget this, remember that you can always screw on a different barrel. Barrels are like tires in a car. They are replaceable. You can take it off. You can get a new barrel chambered for the caliber you want, but with a different twist rate. So if you have a 243 and you say, yeah, I'd really love to be able to shoot those longer bullets, so get a 1-9 twist rate instead of the 1-10. Get a 1-8 twist rate and have it put on your rifle. And now you're in business shooting your old rifle, same caliber, but with longer bullets. Now, chances are you're going to have to hand load, although some companies are loading the longer bullets, but probably only in the more modern cartridges where they know they have the twist rate to establish it. They're not going to make a 243 with a 624 BC bullet because, 99.9% of the rifles out there aren't going to stabilize them. Interesting stuff. Tell you what, when we come back, you can call me with your comments, your calls, your range reports. We'll also have some talk about restoring guns in a way that makes them stunningly beautiful right here on Gun Talk.